Maybe. Yes, sir.
I used to smoke cigarettes, and I took a drag of the cigarette walking with my caddy to the practice range, and just something hit me, and all of a sudden I could feel my chest tightening, my arms tingling, and I'm like, something's not right, handlebar. And so he called the medics over, and they came over and checked me out, and I told them how I was feeling, and my blood pressure was real high, and they're like, maybe you should sit this one out. And I'm like, sit this one out? That means I'm giving up my job. I mean, I've got to finish fourth or whatever. I have a kid, I need to keep my job. Talk about stress. So I say no. So I go through my warm up, and I'm having feelings that I'd never felt, never heard of what anxiety is or a panic attack.
Welcome back to the Maybe Yes Sir podcast. Our guest today is Charlie Beljan. Charlie is a PGA Tour winner. The story around his win is truly fascinating. Charlie grew up in Arizona, was a standout junior golfer, winning the U.S. Junior. He went on to be an All-American at the University of New Mexico. He's a mini tour legend and also had close to 150 starts on the PGA Tour. The one win, as I mentioned, also lost in a playoff at Riviera, which we'll get into a little later. He's now transitioned into teaching, but still plays at a high level. Next week, he'll be competing at the PGA Club Pro Championship up at Bandon Dunes, where the top 20 will earn exemptions into the PGA Championship at Aronimink this summer. So something to look forward to there. So whether you're chasing your own game improvement or just love great stories from the world of golf, Charlie's got a lot of them, and you're in the right place. So Charlie Beljan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. That introduction, you knocked it out of the park, man.
Right on. So you're in Mesa, Arizona, right?
Born and raised right here in Northeast Mesa, Arizona. Like you said, went to school in Albuquerque, but that's the only time I've ever left here. I now go up to the mountains in an area called Sholo Pine Top during the summer, so I don't got to do that blistering 115. They're up there, hot days, kind of 85, but still gets in the 50s at night. So it's beautiful till lunchtime.
Yeah, this part of Canada where I am, the golf courses are not open yet. So there's a lot of guys who've been spending time in the simulator working on their game. But I think we're going to get to your teaching philosophy, but I think there's going to be some real good nuggets from what you could share with the listeners, and especially around wedge game and
Okay.
your wedge game philosophy. That's something that really resonated with me, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Cool.
Why don't we start with the U.S. Junior? I think that's, I've had two PGA Tour winners on the podcast, but never a USGA champion. So this is an honor. I think if they're going to start mentioning the Players Championship as a major, let's start talking about all the USGA winners as majors as well.
Yeah, I remember one time somebody said that I had won a major because I guess Nicholas back in the day used to consider all the USGA events majors, grouped in the same category. I definitely don't think I'm a major winner, but I'll say winning that USGA championship and the US Junior did more to change my life and change my career than winning on the PGA Tour. And being a USGA champion is a super exclusive club. So is being a PGA Tour champion, but I'm just a USGA fan, the US Open in golf. Those are the championships I appreciate where par is a great score. And so I've just been a USGA fan. To be able to say I'm a USGA champion is pretty darn cool.
Going into that event, were you considered one of the favorites at the time?
Absolutely not. I qualified for the Junior Worlds like the week before, 10 days before, had kind of a showing there. Had no college coaches interested in me at all. I'd never played outside of Arizona. I dominated Arizona as a junior, but didn't have the money to travel till I met a guy named Steve Dallas, who's been my mentor and funded me to be able to get things going. But he's the one that paid for me to go to the U.S. Junior, and I showed up there, had like I said, maybe a top 20 or 30 finish at Junior World, which was the biggest finish of my career on a national stage. And I go into the U.S. Junior, and on the 36th hole of regulation, so the way the U.S. Junior works is you play 36 holes of stroke play, and then you go to the low 64 guys out of about 300 to match play.
Wow.
And so on the 18th hole, I had to two putt from like 70 feet to get into match play, and that was the most nervous I've been, and I ended up making the putt and got into match play, and I think I was the 60th seed out of 64.
Okay.
Went along to win the tournament, knocked off a couple names that there's a guy playing this week, Brian Harmon, knocked him off. Great human being. What a career he's had for a little guy, just an all-out fighter.
Yeah.
I think he'll be around a long time. And then there was another guy who we ended up being rookies together, Roberto Castro, who that was his hometown, went to Georgia Tech, then played the tour for a number of years, kind of like I did. And then since haven't heard from him in years. So it was a lot of fun. I believe I set the record at the time. I don't know if it holds for most holes to win a USGA championship. I don't remember how many of my matches went into sudden death. With Brian Harmon, we went into 3 or 4 holes of sudden death. In the final match, we went into 2 or 3 holes of sudden death. That was 2002, man. So I can't recall it like I
right. Wow. Yeah. So every match was just a grind for you.
Just a grind, an all-out grind, no question.
Unreal. Yeah. Roberto Castro, actually, he's involved in TGL now. He does some in-play like commentary for them.
Well, thank you for letting me know, because I knew he wasn't playing, but normally with the guys you keep in touch or you hear about what they're doing, and I hadn't heard a word about him.
Yeah. So that event was at the Atlanta Athletic Club, right? The US Junior.
Home of Bobby Jones.
Right. Yeah. Wow. What a win. Who'd you play in the final?
I played a guy named Zach Reynolds, who after he lost, he went and played for Oklahoma State for like 2 or 3 years and then vanished. And I ran into somebody a handful of years ago that told me what he was doing and been out of the golf business forever, moving along. The golf business is a tough way to make a living, and it's a grind, man. So when people exit, the public says, man, I can't believe you're leaving. That might be my dream job. And meanwhile, if you've lived it, it's about the furthest thing from a dream job, but it's pretty.
Yeah. So you win the US Junior, and then that gives you an exemption into the US Am later that summer. Is that right?
Yeah, I won the US Junior in July, maybe middle of July, and then got into the US Amateur at Oakland Hills, which has hosted many majors and a Ryder Cup, and got there, made it to match play. Again, it's a big field, 300 guys, cut down to 64. But this was all the best college players, all the best amateurs. The US Amateur, just to qualify for it is a huge achievement. And I ended up going into like a 16 guys for 13 spot playoff or something like that. So it pushed the tournament back, and lo and behold, I qualify. And then I think I know where you're segueing this into is, lo and behold, I qualify. And then I draw Anthony Kim.
That's right.
Anthony Kim at that time, like, I watched him hit golf balls, like in junior golf. And then later in college, I went to New Mexico. He went to Oklahoma, but like, he was just so much better than everybody. He was the Tiger of the amateur and junior golf. He was that good, and his golf ball sounded different. He could move it both ways, and he had control. He had a game at 18 or 19 that a lot of guys don't figure out till they're 35 or 40. Saw him on the first hole. He was cocky, so was I, and he turned around to all the Titleist reps and the people standing on the first hole, and he said, I'm going to be the first one to dethrone the past USGA champion. And it kind of fired me up a little bit, but at the same time, I'm thinking, boy, I hope he just doesn't beat me 6-5 or something like that. Lo and behold, I made so many putts that day, and on the last hole, he gave me about a 2-footer for me to win 1 up or maybe 2 and 1.
Nice.
And knock him out, and that was probably the upset of the tournament, I would think. Then I draw a great player in the next round named Spencer Levine, and he smoked me. Ended up later being college roommates, and again, he had a solid career and still out there grinding on the Corn Ferry.
Yeah, for sure he is. Yeah, yep. He's been around a while, definitely.
Time.
Yeah. So I got to ask, you grew up in Arizona. Yep. Arizona State's in your backyard. University of Arizona is in your backyard. How did both of those colleges let you slip away to University of New Mexico?
All my buddies went to ASU. My family went to ASU. I always grew up a U of A fan. I never considered going to ASU. I wanted to go to U of A. The more it ended up not working out. And the reason it didn't work out with U of A is I remember their head coach, Rick LaRose, who is a legend, won a ton of national championships. The guy was in college golf forever, super respected, but he's known for some incredible one-liners and some off-the-chart stories. And he comes over to the house, and I'm so excited. And, Ricky Barnes ended up winning that U.S. Amateur that that I lost to, or that I beat Anthony Kim in. So he had that in his back pocket. And, Ricky was reaching out to me, and he came over to my house and he kept calling me his hush puppy. I didn't understand it. And I was 17 years old, and I had a head that was, couldn't fit through a doorway. And here comes this guy and he's calling me his hush puppy. And to be honest, that's the reason I didn't go there. I was so kind of torn and thrown for a spin. And,
Yeah.
ended up at University of New Mexico, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. I had a coach named Glenn Milliken who changed his plane ticket 4 times, maybe 5 times at the US Junior. Every time I won a match, he was the only coach that stuck around. So I felt like I owed it to him to give them the first recruiting trip. And I went in there and I saw their practice facilities, and I saw the town. The guys showed me a great time, and it was an easy decision. I committed right there on the spot, and
Wow.
I could have gone to anywhere I wanted, had other trips planned to bigger schools. Coach Milliken just, got upgraded to the SEC, and now he's at the University of Mizzou. So he's still doing a wonderful job.
Okay.
And I just ended up at the University of New Mexico. But why I say this, man, is I have so many people, parents that reach out to me and they say, my kid really wants to go to ASU or U of A. And this is by no means a knock on any one of those schools. However, if you look at the stats, myself and Billy Mayfair are the only people to ever be born in Arizona and make it to the PGA Tour, much less win. And I think that there's a reason to that. And people say, well, John Rahm and Phil Mickelson and Paul Casey. Well, these guys grew up overseas, with the exclusion of Phil Mickelson, and they learned how to play in wind and elements. Here in Arizona, it's why it's the golf destination. It's like playing golf in a dome, like 3-mile-an-hour breeze, and people kind of don't know what to do. Perfectly overseeded grass and everything's lush. And yeah, it's great, and it teaches you to make a lot of birdies and shoot a lot of low scores. But then all of a sudden, when you have a tournament that's in Texas or in the Midwest or in Florida, and now you've got this gnarly Bermuda and you got 20-mile-an-hour, breeze, or you go to Dallas, when it's not lush season and everything's dormant. Like, these are all the elements that you have to take into consideration. And when you come play golf in a bubble, which is Arizona, it's not to say that you can't get great. My question is, why aren't better players produced? And I'm not saying that they have bad players, but I'm saying there's such a fine line. There's guys that you've never heard of that could play with the guys on TV. They just didn't play right at the right time. So, but it's like, for me, and when parents call me, I'm like, if your kid wants to play professional golf, I don't believe Arizona is the place to do it. Now, it's where the biggest mini tour is going on right now with the Asher Tour and things like that.
Yep.
But it teaches you to fire at flag sticks, have no imagination, see how high you can hit it in the air. There's only a couple places that you can do that, like Palm Springs in Arizona. And other than that, start to, get out of those elements, you've got to learn to adapt. And that's what New Mexico taught me, with it blowing, 40 during the spring every single day. It taught me how to flight my ball. So it ended up great, but that's my long story short.
Well, it's funny. There's always like a 6 degrees of separation, and there was a really good player, probably the most decorated player out of Winnipeg. His name was Rob McMillan, and he went to the University of New Mexico as well. His freshman year would have been 1995, and he was a 2-time All-American, finished 6th in the NCAA individuals. But yeah, it was curious that he went there as well, but he said the same thing, had a great experience and learned a lot at New Mexico.
Tommy Armour, Tim Herron, Kent Jones, Spencer Levine. I mean, they've put a lot of good players, and right now they've got a new coach in there, and they're doing a great job. They're ranked like top 15 in the country for the University of New Mexico. It's not fancy, but somehow produce quality players.
Yeah. You were two-time All-American. And when did Spencer Levine show up? Did he show up your sophomore year or junior year?
Second semester, my freshman year. Part of the deal was, I got to move off campus and live with Spencer if we could finagle it to where we could get him and stuff like that. But he came there, and he was there for 2 years before he was done and turned pro and moved on. And that was when he had that great run at Shinnecock, where I think he finished like 15th or 17th as amateur. So incredible talent. The guy, just like everybody in life, has ups and downs, and he's figured it out now. And, it's awesome to see.
Yeah. He's still grinding out there.
Yep. Long time.
Yeah. When you graduated from university, there was no PGA Tour university, so you had to kind of figure out where you're going to play.
Yep.
At the time, you could have come up to Canada and played then, which was the Canadian Tour, Mackenzie Tour, but you decided to play the mini tours, which was, I believe, fairly lucrative at the time. Maybe talk about your past on the mini tours and how that helped your game.
So when I got done with school, I raised some money. I got 20 members at my club here that I grew up at, and they all threw in $5,000. So I came out of school, I had $100,000. There was a tour called the Gateway Tour here in Arizona. They still are around, called the Gateway Golf Group, doing not pro-ams and tournaments, like fundraisers is what the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it was so lucrative, and it was the greatest gig ever. Like that, I enjoyed that way more than the PGA Tour. So it was, and all mini tour golf is organized gambling. It is, if anybody tries to tell you it's anything else, they're lying. It's organized gambling. But that was right before the big, crash of 08, 09. Everybody was, I mean, you had to come up 20 grand out of pocket for your season entry fees. And then every week for 18 weeks, you played, we had I don't remember. We played 2 golf courses. We had, 200 players, 250 players each week, maybe not quite that many. And you played 2 golf courses. You played in threesomes with your buddies. You rode in golf carts. You drank beers and barbecued after. And the winner was making 30 grand. I was sleeping in my bed playing golf with my buddies 5 days a week, making a couple $100,000. Like it was
come on.
It was the greatest thing ever. I wish that was still around. I would probably put my full-time shoes back on because I enjoy the game and I enjoy competing. I just hated the travel. I went down some dark holes that luckily I was able to pull myself out of. But, I came out on the Gateway Tour after a successful college career, being an All-American, and did really well. There wasn't really a big stepping stone for me. I was able to roll right in. I won maybe my second or third event out there, knocking off the tiger of the tour, a guy named Brian Contact, in a playoff. And before I knew it, I'd racked up 10-ish wins out there, and a lot of those seasons without missing a cut sometimes. And I was always making money, always having, it was the greatest, man. But now it's like these kids, and I have a lot of them that come to me and to work with those level players. I don't have enough confidence in myself, really, that I don't want to mess with their golf swings. Their swings are what it is. I want to teach them how to practice, how to course management, how to better their wedges, their scoring clubs, and make them understand that.
Yeah.
But now these guys, man, you're paying $1,500 for an entry fee. And if you don't live here, then you've got that. And you've got to go finish 7th to break even. That's ridiculous, man. It's just no different. Shame on the PGA Tour for not kicking the Corn Ferry another $1 million. I understand that, they don't want guys sitting on the Corn Ferry forever. But at the same time, they go to bizarre places that are hard to get to, expensive everything. And these kids, you make the cut on the Corn Ferry and you finish last. I don't know exact numbers, but it can't be much more than, I don't know, 4,000 to 6,000 on a Corn Ferry. I mean, that's not even really going to cover your expenses to some of these, and you're supposed to be on the second floor in the world and so forth. So I think that's a bunch of garbage. I think the competition out there is incredible. They play a lot of tournaments, all that's good, but they need to play for a little more money so these kids can earn something. I don't need them flying, on jets and staying at Ritz-Carlton's, but let's not have to worry about if we're going to eat McDonald's or Chipotle, and I could actually, go to a Texas Roadhouse or something, crazy, man.
Yeah. I think last week's Asher Tour winner won 15,000, right? And to your point, if you're not finishing top 5 or top 7, you're losing money for the week.
Yeah, you're losing money. I mean, experience, there's no price to experience, but at the same time, you still have bills to pay and gas to put in your car. And, I don't know if these guys have deals and, they got balls to buy and equipment to do. And it's a lot, man. It is people ask me, is your son playing? And he's starting to get into it now. He's at 13, but I want him to get into it when he wants to get into it. And I want to get him just to where I don't need him competing, because there's a lot better and easier ways to make a great living. If it's your dream, cool. If it's your dream, that's a different story. But if you're just I think I want to play pro golf, just move on, find something else.
Right?
Yep. It's my game has never been more physically and mentally better than it is right now. it's far superior to when I was on tour. Um, and people are like, why don't you make another run? Why don't you make another run? And it's an easy no for me because I don't have the drive to practice. I don't
Mhm.
have the drive to travel. You've got these young, hungry kids that are full of talent and oozing with excitement. And I don't have that. I want to teach my 3 or 4 lessons, maybe play 18 with my buddies, pick up my son from school. Like I did all of that. And,
Yep.
maybe another 9 years, the Champions Tour, if that even still exists in 9 years, um, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah,
So this
for sure.
opportunity, even for on Wednesday at Bandon Dunes, it's a huge thing. It's my first ever Club Pro Championship, with the top 20 getting into the PGA Championship, and the winner gets 8 PGA Tour exemptions. So maybe I'm 4 days away from going to the PGA Championship. I'm 4 days away from maybe winning this thing. I'm 4 days away from who knows doing what at the PGA Championship. So the cool thing is in the next 3 weeks, I've got life altering tournaments,
For
but
sure.
at
Yeah.
the same time, nothing could happen. And I could be right back to teaching my 3 or 4 lessons a day, and I'd be totally content.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just going back to the Gateway Tour. So every year though, you would go to Q school.
Yep.
I think it took what, 4 or 5
Five.
trips to 5 trips. Man, that's a grind.
5 trips every year, winning on the mini tours, dominating that, go to Q school, walk through first stage. So if you don't know anything about Q school, there's 3 stages of Q school: first, second, third. At each stage, there's about 80 guys, and then like the top 15 to 18 players advance to the next one. So every year I'd walk through first stage, no problem. I'd go to second stage, 4 rounds, and I'd leave after day 3 because a 59 wouldn't have even sealed the deal for me. And so I was like, well, just get me out of here and get me home. And then
Right.
finally, I said I was going to give it one more chance. And I ended up getting all the way through Q school from first stage, second stage, went to Palm Springs, ended up finishing, I don't remember what the number was, 14th there when they were offering 25 cards, got my tour card there and was off to the races.
So your first year on tour, it started in Hawaii, I imagine, like it usually does.
Mm-hmm.
How did the season start for you?
Well, crazy enough, I got this thing called Valley Fever. I'm not going to try to explain it, but 2 days after I got my PGA Tour card, 2 days after I accomplished my childhood dream and I did everything, they had to cut open my hand and I had hand surgery. And then I
No.
could play for 3 weeks. The first time I could chip was 4 days before the Sony Open. But I said, I'm going. And I went, I think here you go. Here's another great story. So I'm having breakfast Thursday morning before my first round on the PGA Tour. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, it's here, it's happening. And I'm sitting there with my wife at the time, and then she tells me that I'm having a baby. So here I am 2 hours before the biggest tee shot of my life, what I think is, and then she hits me with this news, and it was like birdie the very first hole, man. Like, are you kidding me? I ended up missing the cut, but I hadn't played 9 holes before that in 3.5 weeks because of the surgery, but missed the cut there, then came back to Palm Springs, made my first cut there, and my whole career was full of ups and downs. The weeks I played well, I played great, and the weeks I didn't, I went home early. So
Yeah.
I played just like the majority of players. You play well 5-7 weeks a year, and that's how you
Mm-hmm.
keep your job. Like
Right.
everybody thinks that golf is like Scotty Scheffler, where they're in the money every week, everything's going good. You're seeing all the big putts go in. They need to make a Netflix series on. There's 150 guys in the 100 whatever, depending on 140 guys in the field each week. 70 play the weekend and 60 play the weekend and make money. The other guys, they're red eyeing across
Yeah.
across the country to catch their daughter's volleyball game or their son's little league game and spend 24 hours with them before they take a flight right back to the other side. And that's the part that people don't see, is
Mm-hmm.
it's hotels, it's not private jets and resorts. It's, for some it is, but
Yeah.
for the majority, you're doing, you know, hotels, you're always most of the time doing commercial. It's not. And back then I've always been frugal. Back then I was super conservative, man. And that was in 2000, starting in 2012, I was spending 150 or 200 grand a year just in travel,
Oh,
you know? And
crazy.
every week between your caddy fee, flights and that, I mean, some weeks are 10 grand minimum. Some weeks, you catch an easy week and it might be 4 grand. And that was back then. That was back with those prices. I mean, now you got to be spending, I would guess, 250 to 300 grand without any issue.
Yeah.
That's just to show up to have a chance to make money,
Yeah, definitely. So your rookie year, you're full of confidence. Like you said, you're young. You think you got the world figured out. Was there any veterans on tour, so to speak, who kind of like pulled you aside and at the time gave you advice, but at that time you really didn't want to listen to it, but in hindsight they were correct with
Yeah.
the advice?
Yeah. I went right to the older guys because I didn't know anybody on the Corn Ferry Tour. So, and that's where most of the guys on the PGA Tour came from. So I just went up to the Vijay Singh and the Ernie Els and the Justin Leonards and said, "Hey, here's who I am. You mind if I watch you practice and hang out?" And they all couldn't have been more kind. Rory Sabatini was another one that really helped me out a lot. But I was like, well, I'm not going to go learn from other rookies because we're all trying to figure out where the first tee is in the practice range. Let me go right to the guys. What's the worst they could say is no.
Right.
But circling back, I was sitting was having lunch or breakfast by myself at Pebble Beach before I played one morning, and this guy, and by myself because I knew nobody. It was like the third tournament of the year. I was still like looking at these guys like, I've been watching you guys on TV, and now I'm sitting having breakfast in the same room,
Yeah.
And this guy walks up to me and I kind of recognize him. He says, "Hey kid, you mind if I sit down with you?" And it was Steve Jones, who won the US Open and, had a really successful career. Just played golf with him last week, and Alice Cooper and their big event. And, so let me tell you something, kid. If you think you're going to be a Dustin Johnson or one of these guys that comes out here and just does, beats up everybody and, really can make a statement, I'm just here to tell you that you're going to make 80% of your money and 20% of your events. And that's what I was referencing to earlier. And I'm like, who are you to tell me that I'm not going to play well all the time? And I'm like, just because you won a US Open, you think, these are all the thoughts going through my head. Well, I see Steve now, I don't know, 10 or 15 times a year. And every time I see him, I remind him of this conversation. And lo and behold, man, he was dead right. He was dead right. I played well a year. And once I finally, after like year 2 or 3, understood that perspective, it made the game a lot easier for me because you want to play well every week, but when you're doing it against the best players in the world, it doesn't matter how good you are. One bad tee shot can send you home,
Right.
That's how the game works at that high of a level. There's just really no room for error, which makes, like Scotty Scheffler's cut streak or Tiger's cut streak or things like that just incredible. To do it so consistently week in and week out is what's way more, to me, that's what's way more impressive than him winning 20 times or whatever it is now. It's consistency of the great players is what's just, for me, wow. Yeah.
It's amazing for sure. Yeah. And one quick note on Steve Jones, I believe his US Open win was at Oakland Hills where
Yeah, that's correct. I don't remember what year it was. Had to be mid-90s.
Early 90s. Yeah. I can't remember the year either. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I remember that one. Yeah, he used to putt with a bullseye, I believe.
And it's crazy for a big man like he is. I mean, he's my size. He's older now, so he's lost a little bit of size to him or whatever. But all anybody talks about is his putting.
Yeah.
Just a fantastic.
Crazy. Yeah. Yes. For the listeners who don't know, so Charlie was one of the longer players on tour. Like kind of every year that you played, you were right up there in driving distance. Was there, like to Steve Jones' point, was there courses that fit your eye or were more suited for you where you showed up and you're like, all right, I'm going to cash a check this week for sure?
Funny you bring this up. I was just having this conversation with somebody this morning. So I remember right before I got to the PGA Tour, and I would hear about these guys that, didn't like to play in California, or they wouldn't play the Florida swing, or they wouldn't play here. And I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, how could you not want to play every week? And then I got out there and I started to understand. And before I knew it, after my second season, I started to say, okay, here's the golf courses where I don't really have any chance. And like, I was one of the longest hitters out there, but like at a place called Quail Hollow in Charlotte, you had to draw everything off the tee, and I couldn't draw it. I had to cut everything. And so I quit going there. The Valspar tournament in Tampa, another one that you got to turn it the wrong way off the tee for me. And for a guy that's seen a cut his whole life, it didn't suit me. Now, Riviera, losing a playoff, finished 8th, finished 14th. Greenbrier, finished second, finished third, finished 10th, finished 20th. Pebble Beach was always there. Yeah, so I had lots, but you're right. I showed up there, and then just on those courses, you have the little extra confidence, and that makes a big difference. But I understand why guys don't play tournaments. You know, when Rory says, I don't like those 3 tournaments leading up to Masters. He takes a lot of hate for that, but hey, he's trying to perform and do a job, and so what? I totally get it, man. It's like why certain guys don't go to Florida. Like, even though I won in Florida, other than Bay Hill, because when I played the Players, they didn't overseed it. It was still gnarly, dormant,
Oh yeah.
or so much harder. I mean, you hit it in the fair, you missed the fairway there. You were like, is my pitching wedge going to go 110 or is it going to go 205? And it was a guessing game. Now it's aesthetically stunning, Sawgrass is, but in my opinion, it's significantly easier. But Bay Hill was great because Mr. Palmer overseeded it, and it felt almost like Arizona golf in Florida, if that makes sense. But
Sure.
I totally started to understand it. For me, it was more of the shape of the tee shot that would dictate whether I could show up there or not, because my driver was my weapon and my best club. And if you were going to take that out of my hand, I really didn't have a chance against these guys. So that's kind of how.
2012, you had some, like you said, you had some mixed results, and you end up at Disney towards the end of the year, and you're right on the projected bubble to keep your card. Maybe just walk us through the events kind of leading up to that week. This was your win on the PGA Tour, and like I said in the opening, really a fascinating story around this win.
Yeah, so I'll back it up just a little bit. So that tournament was November 12th is the day, I think. November 12th of 12 is the day I think I won. So I had my son in September, and I'd been playing, I'd made more money than I'd ever imagined, but I still hadn't secured a card. And so I'm playing with Vijay Singh and the Fry's tournament in California at the time. And we're walking off the 18th hole, and we had 2 tournaments left after this. And I said, VJ, what do you think of my game? And he said, kid, as long as you hit it, as straight as you hit it, you're built for out here. He goes, but you suck with your wedges. And if I were you, I would either putt left-handed, close my eyes, or quit. And I'm, well, this is fantastic, man, as we're strolling down the 18th fairway, right? And I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm like, I asked for it. I'm glad he told me the truth. I said, what do you suggest? He goes, we got a week off. Go home for a week and don't hit anything more than a 9-iron on the range, and then work on your chipping and putting. So I went home for a week, and it was so hard, but I literally left all my clubs at home except my 9-iron and all my wedges. Went out for a week, practice like that. I go to the McGladrey Classic. I finished like 6th or 8th, and I'm like, whoa, there might be something to this. Now from like 150 yards in, I'm trying to hit it close instead of kind of get it on the green, so my confidence changed. So I come home, go to my sister's wedding, have a week off. I show up to Disney. I've got to finish solo, I think tied 3rd or tied 4th to keep my job. And I had one top 3 finish at the Greenbrier prior to that. At the time, it was money, not FedEx Cup points. And I think I had to make like 350 or 400 grand or something like that to keep my job, more than I'd made all year. Right.
Yeah.
And so, go play a couple practice rounds, and we're going to the tee on Thursday. And I used to smoke cigarettes, and I took a drag of the cigarette walking with my caddy to the practice range, and just something hit me. And all of a sudden I could feel my chest tightening, my arms tingling, and I'm like, something's not right, handlebar. And so he called the medics over, and they came over and, checked me out. And I told them how I was feeling, and my blood pressure was real high. And they're like, maybe you should sit this one out. And I'm like, sit this one out? That means I'm giving up my job. I mean, I've got to finish 4th or whatever. I have a kid. I need to keep my job. Talk about stress. So I say no. So I go through my warm up, and I'm having feelings that I'd never felt, never heard of what anxiety is or a panic attack. So I have no idea what those things even mean. So I go the first hole, I'm smoking cigarettes, trying to calm down. Normally that does it. It's making it worse. I'm freaking out. Go the first hole, eagle the first hole. I'm like, well, okay, this is a good start. So I thought that would calm me down a little bit. It didn't. Par like the next couple holes, and I string like 3 or 4 birdies together, and I turn it like, I don't know, 4 or 5 under. And all of a sudden I see my name at the leaderboard. Well, now my heart really starts pounding. And I tell the tell the rules official as I'm going to the 10th hole, I said, I need the paramedics in the tent because I'm really starting to sweat and feel. And they take my blood pressure and it's like 200 over, 160, something like that. And they're like, listen, Mr. Belgian, you got to stop. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. You guys are going to follow me in a golf cart. And if I die out here, just save me. But I can't quit. Like, I have to get through this. There's nothing I can do. So I go out and I like birdie 10, I birdie 12, and I birdie 15. And now all of a sudden I'm laying in the fairway while people are, taking time, because it was a pro-am for the first 2 rounds. And I'm laying in the fairway and I've got cameras and people, taking cameras of me, and I'm on TV and cameras, and I've got the little ambulance Disney cart out following me. And I'm like, this is a circus, man. But I'm like, I can't quit. So I end up going and I play a few more holes. I get to 17, I get to 18, and I end up making like this 5-footer for par on 18 to shoot 64 for the day. And I think that gave me like a 1-shot lead. And I walked past all the guys in the crowd. Everybody's excited, and I'm literally crying. And I walk into the scoring tent, and at the time, Jason Kokrak and Tommy there, and they're like, Charlie, great playing. They see I'm crying, and I have my caddy. We check my scorecards right there, and then an ambulance, man. And outside, everybody's, talking about what's been going on. They've been seeing it. The buzz is crazy. An ambulance backs up to the scoring tent, and they bring a stretcher in.
Really?
They throw me on this stretcher and they wheel me out to Mr. Palmer's hospital there in Orlando. And I went and slept with my golf shoes on, watched Golf Channel all night. The things they were talking about was just wild. I ended up having a panic attack or anxiety is what they told me, because they ran every test on me throughout the night and I came back healthy as a horse. And so I think my agent got me out of the hospital at like 8 a.m. We stopped at McDonald's and I went home and got like 2 hours of sleep in the hotel before we went back. And I showed up that next day and those feelings came back. And then the doctors gave me a little Xanax to take. I didn't know what that was, but I'm like, if it's going to help me feel better. So I remember I'm not a pill guy. So I remember breaking it in half, and I took half, and I'm like, if I need it at the 9th hole, I'll take another one. And so I go out and I think I shoot a couple under on Saturday on the front 9, take another little relaxer for the back 9, go out and play just a solid round of golf. And I think I got like a 1 or 2 shot lead again, maybe tied for the lead going into Sunday. And, people are asking me all these questions, and I go out Sunday and I start out hot. I make a bunch of pars, and then all of a sudden I birdie like 7, 8, 9, or like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then I'm like, got the tournament kind of in my hands. And then there's this drivable par 4, and I end up going for it and I make double bogey. And now all of a sudden the feelings came rushing back, and I've got like a 2-shot lead with like 4 or 5 to play, but tough holes coming in and first time winning and tons of people. And you can hear the chatters. I wonder how he's feeling. So I'm thinking about it. And lo and behold, I make another birdie coming in. I got a 3-shot lead. 18's not a real tough hole, but 17 requires a great tee shot. As soon as that ball left the face on the tee shot on 17 and was headed for the fairway, I pretty well knew I was going to be all right, but that's normally get in trouble. Got up there, made about a 3-footer for par, knew I could make double bogey on the last hole to win. I'd hit driver there all week. I hit a 4-iron off the tee just to make sure it stayed in between the trees. Pushed it a little into this bunker and told my caddy, hey, I'm just going to hit an 8-iron out there just short of the green. And I did that, and I chipped it up, and I had about 4 feet, and I could 3-putt it for double the win. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, please don't 4-putt this, not here. Like, it's like 3 feet. But those are the thoughts and the crazy things in your head when you're trying to do things and everything. And luckily I hit the putt just to where it fell over the edge, because if it missed, it wasn't going by far at all. And I remember holding my kid up and then doing an interview, and then I was super busy after that, man. I had a lot of different news stations and big television stations wanting to do interviews, and now it started to open my eyes to how many people are suffering with anxiety and all this kind of stuff. And so kind of became a little spokesperson for that, and then went to Riviera a few months later and lost in a playoff, and kind of just had lightning in a bottle career out there. 4, 5, 6 weeks a year, played well, but yeah, that there's still there's days that go by where people don't bring that up or ask, but not not me. But it is what it is. And to be honest, if I'm telling the truth, It's probably why I won the golf tournament, because I wasn't thinking about the shots or about the pressure or about the winning. I was literally just making sure one step went in front of another, and I was counting down the holes to make sure I wasn't going to fall over on the golf course and die. And lo and behold,
Yeah.
got through it. But that's probably, beware of the sick or hungover golfer,
Right.
because you're not thinking and you don't have expectations, and you're kind of just out there swinging, trying to get through it. And I truly believe that's probably why I won.
Yeah. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. You kind of glossed over Riviera. I mean,
I
you can't fake it around Riviera for you to lose in a playoff there. I mean, I think
Riviera,
you made like a 20-footer to get in a playoff there on Sunday.
great.
John Merrick ended up winning. I think he got kind of lucky in the playoff. You would never say that, but
Oh,
I mean,
I would say it, but hey, that I would say it, but that's golf, man. That's
yeah,
it. Sometimes you get the breaks and sometimes you don't. But yeah, he on 18, there's these trees down the right, and the dude hit it in the trees, and it went through every big eucalyptus that there was and ended up okay. And then he punched his next shot through the trees, and it worked out again. But hey, that's golf, man. Um,
yeah,
but here's a great story. So Riv is I think it's maybe my favorite golf course. It's just big. It's a ball striker's paradise. I love the history around it, the settings set below, the homes above. Just a great golf course, except for the 10th hole. So I got two great stories for you. So, um, what was I going to say? The first one, talking about, yeah. So, and actually before that, on Saturday of the year I lost in the playoff, I'm playing with Ernie and Phil on a Saturday at Riviera, man. And I shoot 60
wow,
and they shoot 70 and 72. And we're in the scoring tent. And I'm like, Ernie was a buddy of mine at that time. And Phil, he had said hi, but like no more than that, acquaintances. And so I'm like, this is my chance. So I take off my hat, and we're at the scoring table. Instead of sliding Phil's scorecard, I slid in my visor and I said, can you sign that, man? And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I've been watching you guys on TV forever. And for the first time I played with you, I smoked you both. And so chuckle, and he signed it across the entire visor, man. And I gave it to Ernie, and Ernie signed it in the corner, and I still have it. But that was one great story. But the second one is that putt that I made. So on the 18th hole in regulation, I know I've got to make like this 20-footer. And if you haven't ever seen 18 at Riviera, it kind of sits down and there's an amphitheater all around it, and the hillside's packed, and it's just incredible. And I actually still go to YouTube and watch it because Jim Nantz was announcing it when I made that putt. And as me and my caddy are walking up, there's this lady that's right on the ropes behind the hole. And she says, just so you know, everybody's missing the putt low. They're not playing enough break. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, why would she say this? But then I'm sitting there and my caddy and I start talking about it. And
yeah,
it's like 30 deep at that point. And she was front row Joe. So she had been there for a while, and she had a perfect view of every putt that was coming up at the hole, not so much on the sides. And so we're standing over it, and we read this thing about a half a cup to a cup out. And I'm over it, and I'm getting ready to hit this putt, trying to make it, and I back off, and I tell my caddy, I said, I got to play it some more. And so I played it more. I took this lady's word, and I played it about a cup and a half, and it barely fell in the low edge, man. She was dead on. And the putt went in. I was fist pumping. The crowd went insane. And then once the cameras panned away, I went over to her and I don't remember if I gave her balls, gloves. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, thank you. You did that for me, and ended up losing in a 2-hole playoff. But this is one of my, this is probably, when I tell this story, this is people's favorite story. So
oh, that's
uh
unreal.
so we go to the playoff. 18 we tie, we go to 10 at Riviera. The first time I played it, I'm playing with Retief Goosen and Bo Van Pelt, and we're all in the middle of the fairway about 70 yards away, and Retief Goosen makes an 8 and Bo Van Pelt makes a 7 and I make a 4, and right there I instantly became afraid of that hole, because I watched these world-class players go back and forth across the green. And this is before they made it a little bit easier and that softened up the green and watered it. And so in the playoff, I hit driver trying to drive it, have to punch out to the front of the green. I end up 3-putting. I end up missing like a 5-footer, and I was heartbroken because that was my ticket to the Masters. So didn't care that I finished second, didn't care about the check. I was sad. So they said, hey, Charlie, we need you in the media center. So I go to the media center. I think I'm having a cocktail, and they're asking me questions, and they said, I don't remember what the exact question was, but they asked me what I thought about hole number 10. And I said, I said, there's 17 of the best golf holes in the world at Riviera. And then we played the 10th hole for a playoff, which needs a clown's mouth and a windmill because that hole is so bad. So about 4 or 5 months goes by, and my buddies call me and they're like, hey man, why don't you call out to Riv and let's go out to Riv for a couple days and play some golf? I'm like, that sounds great, man. I'll do it. So I call out to Riviera to talk to the director of golf. And I said, hey, Mr. So-and-so, it's Charlie Beljan. He's like, hey, Charlie, how you doing? Good, good. And I said, hey, I was hoping that, maybe a couple afternoon tee times once you're not trying to take any prime time, but can me and my buddies come out and play? And he goes, you know what, Charlie? He goes, I would love to have you and your buddies come out and play. He goes, but unfortunately, we haven't installed the clown's mouth and the windmill yet. And so, you know what? You can't come. And that's the first time I was like, whoa, so there's consequences for your words, and
Right.
I'll never forget that, man. And I went back out the next year, and I think I finished like 10th or 12th, but I've never called back out there. I enjoy it when I go there, but that's when I learned. I'm like, okay, so if you say something that somebody doesn't like, and I believe that today too. That wasn't like a heat of the moment. I was in a bad mood, whatever. That was the truth. And I still believe that today for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for
Tough.
the next 5 years, all I did was hit 5-iron into the left stance and take a drop in the left rough. And then I got a little 60-yard chip straight up the green. And I was just hoping from 60 yards to get on the green, and I'd putt and I'd get out of there. It's the worst hole in golf for sure.
Yeah. And
But
like you said, especially when the other 17 holes are as good as they are, right?
They're just, that place is a special place, no doubt. I mean, from standing on the first tee box, looking down over it's just an incredible venue for sure.
Yeah. Unreal. Yeah. Unreal place. I watched the 2000, it was the Nissan LA Open at that time.
Like the six-person play.
Yeah. It was that year. Yeah. I wasn't there on Sunday. I was there on Friday, but I just sat on like the 18th hill, kind of where the guys' drives would come to rest, and I could see their approach shot. I sat there for like an hour. I'm like, this is golf heaven right here.
Yes, it is. It's a special spot for sure.
Yeah. Another event where you were in contention a little later on was the 2015 U.S. Open at Chambers Bay. I remember that. That's where Spieth won. I remember your name being up on the leaderboard there, and I went back and looked, and I think you finished a little farther down the leaderboard because of a bogey on 18. But if I were to like go back maybe halfway through the back nine, there was a chance that you were kind of right in the mix there, right?
I remember it was like the 13th hole or something. I looked at the leaderboard and I saw it, and I looked at my caddy and I said, dude, if we can make 2 or 3 birdies coming in, we could win the US Open. And I go and I birdie like the 15th. And then I 3-putt, whatever. I end up 3-putting 15 and 16. And so I'm like, all right, let's just finish strong. And now I'm thinking, all right, if I just finish in the top 10, I'm getting exemption into all the majors for next year, man. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I par 16, I par 17, I bust this driver on 18. 18's this par 5. And at the Chambers Bay, they had these grandstands that I'd never seen before, man. They were so massive, and it was dry and fast. And a lot of guys complained about the week. I loved it because I like hard golf where par's a good score. And I had like 260 pin, man, and my caddy and I hit this laser 3-iron that landed on the front of the green, and the crowd's going nuts. I'm thinking I'm going to make a 2, maybe a 3, but a 4 at worst, finishing in the top 10. The ball rolls just over the green and up this hill, and it gets caught in the fescue and didn't come back down. Had it come back down, I've got maybe 2 feet for eagle. Instead, it gets caught in the fescue. I try to do something cute. I leave it in the fescue, and then Then I had to take my medicine and chip it 1 foot, which rolled 40 yards. And then I 2-putted for bogey and ended up finishing like 16th, 17th, 18th somewhere. And I remember there's this garbage can next to the scoring tent. I've never sent a paper garbage can flying so far. Playing with like Francisco Molinari at the time. And he looked at
Yeah.
me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, don't look at me. You just broke your putter like 4 or 5 holes ago, man. Like this is what happened." The US Open is just another, every event on tour is stressful, but when you walk into the majors, it's just everything is amplified times 20.
Yeah.
Um, Not only with the people, but just the demand on your golf game and just your energy and everything like that. The majors are special.
It too bad at Chambers Bay that year the greens were a little bit rough. I guess would be a nice way to put it. Do you think Chambers deserves another chance at a major, maybe a PGA, if not a U.S. Open?
I do. Yes, I understand the greens. We putt on perfect greens every single week. So when there was a couple, and yeah, were they tough? Yeah, man. But guess what? They were tough for everybody. Okay. It's not like
Yeah.
half the field got smooth. No, and I remember I played with Billy Horschel on Saturday, and just watching him dance around the hole and freak out was comedy in itself. But yeah, he was probably the main vocal guy there, I think, about the greens. But you know what? I love being 120 yards in the fairway and aiming 50 feet left of the hole to catch a ridge, because we played it, they dried it out and almost made it link style. I mean, we
Hmm.
400-yard drives on some holes, and you were having to navigate hills and bunkers, and but it made the approach shots into the greens so much fun, and you had to be so creative. And my caddy at the time, who actually now caddies for Ricky Romano, he just
Okay.
did a beautiful job scouting the course. And with him and I just trusted him. I mean, he read all my putts. He told me where to hit it, and I just swung the club. And so he did a wonderful job, and that's why he's with Fowler, and they've had some success. And um, I think Chambers, I think yeah, I do think they deserve another one, man, for sure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's a
That's
great
insane.
golf course with a beautiful setting. I will say that they probably won't ever get one because it was a nightmare for the spectators. Kind of like a Beth,
Oh,
kind of like a Bethpage. Bethpage isn't that great either. But
yeah.
Chambers, I mean, just the logistics. I mean, the player hotel was like 50 minutes away. I mean, it was,
Oh, shit.
I don't know if things have changed in 10 years. If it's like the rest of the world, I'm sure it has, but it was
Yeah.
just, everything was hard. Nothing was convenient. Fans had to park, 45 minutes, an hour away, ride a bus. It was,
Mm,
but for the first time there, I thought they did a great job, and they had it set up differently than any other US Open. And that's why it took some backlash.
yeah. Yeah. Bit of a transition here, but now you've transitioned out of playing on the PGA Tour and doing a lot of a good work teaching the game of golf now, and as you call it, giving back to the game. Um, we'll get into some of your coaching philosophy, but what's the best way for somebody listening today to get a hold of you and get in contact with you if they want to do some online stuff with you?
My Instagram and Facebook are great, but charliebeljan.com. We just launched it a couple weeks ago. It's up and running. You can book lessons. I offer a subscription where we do weekly calls and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm just dabbling in that. But for people that want information on my lessons, my story, anything like that, charliebeljan.com. Thank you for that.
Awesome. And I'll have that in the podcast notes as well for the listeners. As I mentioned, we're not even golfing here in this part of Canada yet. Guys have been sitting on the couch playing simulator golf. What's in your opinion, what's the best way for a guy to groove his swing? And I've watched one of your videos that you mentioned on Facebook where you discuss your wedge game philosophy in terms of playing the ball a little farther back in your stance, not taking full swings. Really, really like that approach. Maybe would that be a way for somebody to get into like the springtime and start grooving their game?
I would agree. I think, especially if you're indoors in a simulator, like, I am the outcast on simulator golf. I'm the one person that doesn't like it. I went and played Bandon Dunes because I have a tournament there in a simulator maybe about a month ago. I will admit it was a little bit better than I thought, but just something about swinging indoors. When you were in Arizona, we don't have a reason to go do a simulator. So I totally
No.
get it for you guys, the Midwest people. But in my opinion, simulators and the TrackMans and all that are making the average golfer worse, because all they're trying to do is see the numbers on the screen go up, up, and up, meaning their club head speed, their ball speed, and how far they hit it. And they don't care if it's 3 fairways over or in a backyard. If they can look at their buddies and say it went 300, they're happy. And that's where I think that we've lost the golf what golf was, and Gary Player's starting to be real vocal about it. Golf is about getting the ball in the hole. I just watched Auberg do a beautiful special about his power, but he said, some weeks the power is in the wedges, some weeks it's in the tee. It's not about swinging for the fences every single time on all 18 tee boxes, and most of the time in the approach shots for the fairway. So since 2012, when VJ is done, taught me that 150 and in. I would say that since 2012, the number of times I've taken more than a 9-iron to a driving range is probably 10. I don't even, most of the time, even in tournaments, I don't even hit drivers or anything like that in my warm up because
Wow.
I'm confident in them. But I like to get my rhythm and my distances and solid contact down. And that's what I can do with wedges. And that's what it's not. Here's the thing, and that's why this is what I work so hard on my college players. And 99% of them are just like me, where they think they know more than me. Like I thought I knew more than people when I was in college. And then it's the 1% that listen that all of a sudden go from the fifth guy on the golf team to the second guy on the golf team because they're just listening and doing what I'm asking. I don't ever think that I know it all. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first to tell you that there's a million golf coaches that know way more about the golf swing than me. But I want to teach you to play golf, not golf swing. And so I'll kind of go into my teaching now. Like I am never going to reinvent somebody's wheel. That is not what I do. I'll fix a couple broken spokes. People don't have the time or the energy or the knowledge to, in my opinion, rebuild their swings. Like
Yeah.
was playing and I would switch instructors, like I would have to dedicate 50 to 100 hours of making that move, and that's how many thousands of balls, and that's with an instructor watching, me being one of the better players in the world on the PGA Tour, and then I would have to put in that much time. There, people don't hit 100 hours of balls in a year, much less a month or a week or a lifetime maybe.
Right.
Well, they just go out and play, which is, hey, if that's what you do, like I love my 80 to 100 golfer. I love coaching the better players, but I do that more on mental game and course management and how to practice efficiently. But the 80 to 100 golfer, man, like YouTube, I'm 1,000% against YouTube as well. If you're going to do YouTube, pick one person and stick to it. You can't pick 43 people and try to incorporate these things. And then because what that leads to is you're trying something different on every shot. And I'll be the first.
Yeah.
Golf from tee to green for my whole entire career has been very simple. I am a was a mental midget when it came to putting. I'd putt claw on the first two holes, cross-handed on the next three. I just finished putting one-handed for almost 2 years and I putted lights out. But that's how much of a mental guy I was. But because I was trying something new every time. But like it's so funny when I ask somebody to do something and they can do it flawlessly in the practice swings because they're not trying to hit it. They're just swinging the club. And then you put that little ball in the way and everything goes to hell in a handbasket in a matter of 4 seconds, man. And so
Right.
my big things, and this is what I've learned from, I've probably given 3,000 lessons now, 2,500 maybe. And I thought I had seen everything there is from playing junior golf all the way up to the highest level. And then I started teaching, and every day I learned something new or hear a new term. And like, this is the most, like, for me, it's almost entertainment, man, because I'm like, what am I going to show up to today, But
Right.
man, the big things are the fundamentals. As crazy as that sounds, you could go watch YouTube videos and nobody talks about them. But when you're aimed up 40 yards to the right and your grip, you have no knuckles showing on your left hand, and you tell me you slice it, no kidding. You got to be kidding me, Like, oh, or I chunk it or I thin it. No kidding. So like, I like to take the player, like everybody can make the motion, man. But when you can't get the fundamentals right, your brain always wants you to succeed. I've spent enough time in sports psychology and that with like Dr. Bob Rotel and those, is your brain wants you to succeed. But when you're aimed way over here and the target's right here, what's going to start to happen? This
Right.
or this, 99% of the time, that there goes your distance, there goes your consistency, there goes so many things. So what I like to do is my favorite saying is most people set up to suck, hoping to succeed. Let me set you up to succeed. And if we hit a bad golf shot, golf's hard. It's going to happen,
Yeah.
people are just shocked once I crank them 40 yards to the left and get them convinced that, hey, you're not now 40 yards left, you're aimed properly. And then I get you to
Right.
hit inside the ball. And they're like, I've never hit it so high or so far. I've never got a divot like that. I'm like, because you couldn't. You wanted to mess with wrist positions and backswing garbage. Give me a break, man. Like,
Yeah,
when I
for sure.
work with people, I give them stuff that they can do in their living room or their garage, because people
Hmm.
don't have the time, the energy, and now golf has gotten so outrageously expensive since COVID. I mean, yes, with COVID, thankfully saved golf because golf was in a bad spot, but now it's ruining golf because everybody that supported it before is now being priced out, man. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate. But like, I have worked on the same thing, my grip and my stance, for the last 7 years. And when something goes wrong, it normally comes from one of those two. Like, I take videos every time. Scotty Scheffler, the best player in the
Right.
world. Dude has a grip trainer every day on the driving range. It's $9 on Amazon, folks. Buy one and change your game. Like, it's that
Right.
simple. It really is. Because, like, if I want to hit a ball an extra 10 yards, I don't give it any extra in my swing. I just slightly strengthen that left hand grip, and there's my extra 5 or 10, like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
go on and on about it, but like, it's funny because my favorite question to ask people when we're done with a lesson is, was that simpler than you thought? And they're like, absolutely. My brain is not overwhelmed. I'm not one of these, oh, we got to go 2 steps backward to go a step. That's horseshit, man. Like,
Yeah.
you see me on a Friday and you got a Saturday morning game with your guys. 90% of the time, your guys are going to be like, whoa, what happened? And I didn't work a miracle. I just got you properly set up to be successful. And in turn, you're going to have much more success and
Yeah.
consistency, man. Um, the brain and the body are a funny thing. If you set it up properly, it'll swing it for you, man.
Hmm.
But nobody talks about the fundamentals. We want no chicken wing. We want the club face here. Yeah. Some of those, I have like 2 or 3 things that I just can't have people do. I can't have you whip it inside on the way back. I can't, and really, other than that. And then my big thing, which Ernie Els taught me, is if this is the club face and I move my hand like this, the club face is always square. There's my slicers, there's my holders, my slicers, and then play catch up and hook it. But if I release the club like this from my backswing, the club face is square the entire way. And people say, well, didn't you put that on Instagram? And people be like, no, you're teaching casting. I could show you David Duval, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, all talking about the exact same motion of the right hand. Like, this hold the angle for lag thing has made everybody so much worse. Like, there's not a player on tour that tries to hold it unless they're trying to slice one 30 yards. You got to release it, man. And
Right.
it's old school technically, I guess, because nobody talks about releasing the club, and it's not a flip. There's a difference. This is going to cause duck hooks. This is going to cause dead straight every time. Am I going to hit them thin? Sure. Am I going to hit them fat? Sure. But they're going to be in front of me. And all I want to do is take the timing out of people's game and take your dispersion from way out here to a little bit closer in. Your scores are going to go down. Your enjoyment's going to go up, and we're going to keep it easy. Because I remember I'd get on a plane and go travel. I've seen everybody. Butch Harmon, Matt Kilgare. I've seen everybody. Half the time in my lessons, my brain would be on such overload, or they'll be like, no, this is how it has to be. I'd write them their check and leave. Like, teach everybody the same way because everybody's different. And if your brain isn't comprehending or can't make the connection of what I'm trying to get you to do, I move on. It's not like a one trick pony. Like, everybody's different. And so
Yeah.
I teach the way that I wanted to be taught. And I try to keep it simple and understanding and basic. And people often say, like, this seems too easy. And I'm like, we make an already crazy complicated game way harder than it needs to be. And I was
No
guilty
kidding.
when I got to the tour. I'm like, I got to retool everything if I want to compete with these guys. I lost myself, went down a dark black hole, so forth and so on, and trying to do something that I thought everybody else did, and it's not the case. And especially, like, if you tell me you play 4 days a week, I'm definitely going to teach you differently than the guy that says, hey man, I got a big company outing in 3 weeks. And I
Right.
don't want to embarrass myself. I'm going to teach those people differently, you know,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of going to teach them the same way. Just one way is going to get you there a little quicker or so forth, you know, but like, it's like, yeah, man, I just try to keep it crazy simple. And I think that's why I stay busy. And man, I have this, we are not doing any video or any TrackMan or any, the only technology that's on the range with me is my phone, which you'll probably get depending on, you might get 15 or 20 videos that I take and I send, and
Yeah.
then you can hear me talking and us interacting. That way you kind of get to take the lesson with you. But like, I'm not sitting on the range drawing swing plane lines and all that. Like, give me a break, dude. Like, unless you're a single digit handicap, like if you're thinking about that stuff, you got to stop if you want to get
Yeah.
have more enjoyment, you know. And it's not a knock on somebody that's not a single digit. It's just like the other day I put out a video about, I do so many lessons and so many playing lessons, and everybody thinks they hit the ball further than they do. That's
Oh,
why
for sure. Yeah.
everybody chipping from the front of the green, man. Like 1 out of 1,000 hits a ball over the green, and that's normally only if they dead scold it, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like those little changes, like take the 7-iron instead of the 8 and put your ego aside. Like when I can get people to fall into believing what the actual reality is versus what they think reality is, their scores just start to drop. And it's not because I work magic. It's just I play the odds. It's like when I
Yep.
play a game, man, I hit, can I pull off the harder shot? Sure, I can. But is the risk worth the reward? And if the answer is no, I play the high percentage shot because, as you said earlier, I used to be, Bubba Watson and I were always 1 and 2 in driving distance, but I was pretty damn close to leading the field or the tour in double bogeys. So who cares that I hit it far home on Fridays, man? So
Yeah.
um, I just think like here's another thing, like if you take the USGA handicaps from 2000, and somebody made a point. I used to say, if you take the USGA handicaps from 2000 to 2025, the average golfer has improved by less than 1 stroke. So somebody said, well, COVID threw those numbers off. So I went back and looked. 2000 to 2019, it was like zero point 0.7 strokes in those 19 years with the advancement in technology, with drivers
Wow.
that go straighter, balls that go further, TrackMan technology, drivers that you can hit it off the toe and it still goes straight. How come the average person, now have the great players gotten significantly better? Absolutely, like light years better. But I am talking, I'm not coaching the greats out on TV. I'm coaching the
Yeah.
80, 100, and that's who I want to coach. I don't want to coach the greats. One, I don't have the self-confidence. Two, I don't want to travel anywhere. I want people to come to me. If we have all of these things that are supposedly game improvements and iron heads that are this big, and the average handicap's gone down, what must be wrong? The instruction sucks, in my opinion. It's
Yeah.
too complicated. It's too difficult. And YouTube makes you, dance through hula hoops and lift a left leg and shake a right. And now all of a sudden you've got the magic, like it's just bonkers, man. So I
Yeah.
am and across the board in my whole life, I am a simple, simplistic person. And I take that to the golf course. And I think that's why I, I, I hit it really well every time. For the last month, I'm now looking at the hole when I putt, and that's how I'm going to go to Bandon. I've never seen more putts go in because I feel
Nice.
way more athletic and it feels way more natural. And I've now had 3 tournaments, and I got one more tomorrow, a pro that I'm playing in
Okay.
it out. But that's how
When
I'm abandoned. Now, is it unorthodox? Yeah, but I also just got done putting one-handed for 2 years and set 3 course records. So like, it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you're confident doing it.
Right? Yeah. So
Oh,
Bandon starts on Sunday?
so yeah, a week from tonight, we'll be figuring out what we need to do for round 2, but I'm leaving on Wednesday, going to go play 3 rounds of golf over there, or at least 2, get a feel for it, maybe just practice. I'm not going to wear myself out and, walk a million rounds, but yeah, heading out Wednesday, beyond excited. Just switched
Have you,
to Callaway golf after 19 years with Strixon. I just made the change to Callaway. Strixon was
nice.
great people. The reason I was so loyal to them is I never saw technology good enough to make me want to change or change my game. And then I hit the Callaway golf ball and it got me interested. And then now, I got the whole bag. I got 14 new clubs going. It's not true. I got 11 clubs, and I'm still sticking with my Strixon hybrids. But other than that, everything throughout the bag. They're new X-Forged irons. They designed off the Strixon ZXi7, which I'd been playing forever. So it was a pretty easy switch, but the golf ball, I mean, we're talking between the golf ball and the driver, 20 to 25 yards. People say, no way. I say, I'm doing it, man. Like my Thursday and Saturday morning game that I play with my guys, they're like, you're taking lines that you haven't taken in a decade. And I'm like, I know. And that's
Seriously.
that's why I made the change. That's the only
Wow.
they were just that good. Strixon was phenomenal. Great people, great company, great product. If guys on tour don't have an iron deal, they're probably playing Strixons, because even the other companies will tell you their irons are that good. But the golf ball, the driver, their irons, their wedges, it's good for me. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Yes, your game's in a good spot. So that starts Sunday. That's on Golf Channel, I believe, as well. There's some coverage of that. So
every 4 hours of coverage every day.
Yeah.
3 to 7 here in Arizona. I'm not sure your guys' time, but yeah, Sunday to Wednesday, starting in a week from today.
Awesome. Well, good luck, man. We'll be cheering for you. Want you to finish top 20, maybe go and get a win as well, and
never know.
Go play Ironic, and like you said, you never know what happens, right?
Oh, what happens? I'm just going to give it my all and enjoy it while I'm doing it.
Yeah, like I said earlier, highly encourage all the listeners to go follow Charlie either on Instagram or on Facebook. Check out charliebeljan.com as well. All of that will be in the podcast notes. Charlie, this has been awesome. We could do a two-parter, I'm sure, and talk a lot more golf, but this has been great. Yeah.
Let me know, man. Hey, I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me. And then if you ever make clips or anything like that, if you just share them with me so I can post them.
Yeah, I will.
Cool.
Very good, sir. Appreciate your time. Have a great week, everyone.
All right. Thank you.